What was the most ducked up thing you saw in school? I saw the PE teacher getting a heart attack during class and dying. It was ducking scary. A kid clipped the tip of his tongue off with a pair of safety scissors after someone dared him to. A kid jumped over the balcony to try and beat the rush on mashed potato day. He broke both his legs. Did not get his potatoes. Some kid kept eating in the sink every week and they had to keep cleaning it up. One day I walked in the bathroom and someone had put it on the wall. In first grade a boy pulled his pants and underwear to below his knees and laid down on his back. Then a girl spat on him. I don't remember why, but I will never forget that sight. I had a friend that was allergic to so many things he had to eat the same thing every day that he brought from home. I literally mean every day for years. He had a very bad day, failed a test, some things happened at home. We met up at lunch and he had 2 slices of pepperoni pizza. He said today seems like a good day to die and proceeded to wolf down both slices. I had never seen him so happy. I walked him to the nurse's office as he ballooned up. He was hospitalized for 2 weeks. He never regretted the decision. A couple ducking in the dumpster behind the cafeteria. For the rest of the year, people would walk up behind the dude crinkling paper and asking if it was getting him hard. Just to add a bit, 4 or 5 of my friends and I stumbled upon this event while we were coming back on campus and one of them went to throw his trash away. It got around the school pretty damn fast. It's probably a good thing that I'm old enough that the smartphone wasn't a thing when I was in high school, because there's a good shot that one of the group would have been dumb and taken a picture that included a 17-year-old having sex. Some girl broke up with a guy, so he smeared his it on her locker and pissed all over it. A girl had diarrhea and was wearing tights and sitting in class, and the tights started getting really lumpy, but she didn't get up to go to the bathroom. A kid hung himself on a playground our senior year. I hear his brother found him. This all happened a week after 2 of the brother's friends, also seniors, died when they wrapped their classic Mustang around a tree near the HS. Made for a rough senior year to say the least. Many years ago I sat next to a kid in high school who went on to kill his mom. He would always bring in photos of homemade bombs from 2-liter bottles, flamethrowers from squirt guns, etc. I thought it was the coolest thing and was so impressed by it until later on when I recognized I was encouraging it to be murderer to keep being violent. A girl was coming back from a doctor's appointment and wasn't there to hear that we couldn't get out equipment for recess. She opened the door, grabbed something and went to leave. The wind kicked up and slammed the door on her hand and she lost a finger. They rushed her to the hospital and they sewed it back on and eventually it was back to normal, but that was the most ducked up thing I had seen. A giant hawk swooped down on campus and sunk its talons into the back of a squirrel foraging for acorns about 20 or 25 yards from me. Scared the bejesus out of me. He stood on it like a boss for a few seconds and then flew off with it. This was at like 7:30 in the morning, so it took me a while to wrap my brain around it. The guy walking in front of me spun around and said, "Please tell me you saw that." Watched 2 girls get into a fight. One girl had a bunch of ear piercings and was wearing so many hoops it looked like chainmail. The other girl got her on the ground, grabbed those hoops and pulled hard. I will never forget the scream. The rings didn't give, but her ear sure as hell did. Blood everywhere. The girl standing over her like a goddamn psychopath holding a very recognizable ear in the air above her head. It was ducking Mortal Kombat in real life. We, entire school, watched some guy jump from 12th floor. The boys in my class bred mold in one of the lockers. They managed to get milk so moldy, some yellow fluid was all around it. Saw a girl stomp on another girl's jaw with her high-heeled boot for looking at her boyfriend at the next lunch table over. I heard she had to get her jaw wired. These 2 kids got into a fight at my school. Somewhere during the tussle one kid lost his balance and on the way down threw the meanest uppercut ever. He connected on the other kid's bare teeth and pushed them into his gums. He ducked up his own hand really bad. Blood just everywhere and no teachers in sight for like another 3 minutes. It was a rival football game and the stands were packed. A section of the old wood bleachers collapsed and 20 or so students went to the hospital with numerous broken bones. concussions, and lacerations of various degrees. During the same game, I saw the guy get hit so hard in the leg that it shattered and both bones were showing. Poor kid ended up in a wheelchair for the rest of the school year. When I was 8 we were making cookies in class and they gave us square cheese graters to make chocolate chips with. Because they didn't trust us with knives, a fair judgment. Some kid was holding a few graters and pretended to be a robot. This girl shouted at him because he wasn't a robot and proceeded to take one of the graters and grate his hand. Lots of blood happened and then a pair of twins both fainted. We had this girl in our school who was a year older than me. I didn't knew her very well but we sometimes made small talk. Soon I noticed she wasn't in school anymore. So I assumed she moved or something like that. 5 months later she came back to school, completely covered in self-harm scars, and by that I don't mean just the arms or legs, chest, her neck, her hands, and even her back had multiple scars. She avoided everyone and became a loner. Once I was going to the bathroom during the lesson and when I opened the door she was standing there cutting herself and crying. I was mortified but sat next to her and just held her. We sat there for 20 minutes before a teacher came and quickly called the ambulance. She bled so much that we sat in a puddle of her blood. I will never forget how much she cried when medicals wanted to help her up, but she let out the most blood-freezing scream I ever heard. They had to restrain her so they could take her to a hospital. I sat there for some more time and just stared at my bloody appearance. I got sent home and just showered and went to bed. She was admitted to a mental hospital where I visited her and she is doing much better now there. I visit her regularly and we became great friends. A guy literally eating on a teacher's desk. In college, a guy dressed as Gandalf came into the classroom and said "Thou shalt not pass," then left. It was right before finals. A girl with bulimia tried to shout down a spiral staircase, but because her gag reflex was so weak she vomited from a great height instead. The splash. In high school a guy punched a girl in the face, slammed her head into the wall, and threw her on the ground. He was big and mean enough that the adults just froze in their tracks. I was in 9th grade. One of our classmates got drunk, stripped and streaked the lunchroom, gymnasium, basically any place crowded. The staff was afraid to tackle a naked teenager so we all got an eyeful. In my school there was a kid, or multiple kids, we don't know, who would eat in a urinal every once in a while. They were known as the urinal eater. Someone made a meme with the Grim Reaper going to the doors template with all the bathrooms they had done it in, and the Reaper going into the last bathroom, the office bathroom. The meme spread very quickly and I guess some teachers saw it. Since there is blood in the meme, coming from under all the closed doors, they decided it was a credible threat of violence. They closed the school for 2 days for safety concerns. Just a super weird story all around. We were in 4th grade and class just let out for a 5-minute break. I was with a group of girls and we walked into the bathroom. On the far wall was a giant ring of it painted in the shape of a heart. There was even visible undisguised food in the feces that, for some reason, is burned into my memory. There was a kind of a witch hunt. The principal called out students in the hallway, one by one, to question the kids. No one confessed as far as I remember, but there was a lot of suspicion surrounding a boy who liked to talk about butts and flatulence. I'm not even sure that he did it, but make too many arsehole jokes in class and something like this happens. You are suspect number 1. Saw 3 little dudes try to jump this massive mountain of a guy in the cafeteria. He fended them off pretty good till the teachers who were football coaches managed to break it up. There was a ginger vegan that would chew carrots up in his mouth and chase people around, spitting carrots at them. He ended up getting his head slammed into a bag hook in a fight afterwards. Middle school. I was chilling in the band room and I look out to the hall to see a kid with some sort of liquid coming out of his eye. Later I found out some kid stabbed his eye with a pencil. So ducked up on a funny way. 2 guys were yelling in the hallway and it was about to come to blows. Guy 1 goes back to swing at guy 2 and proceeds to miss by mile into another girl. Girl kicks guy 1 square in the balls. He falls back into another student, and then it dominoes into the crowd that had gathered around. The teacher that was in the way came running up and slipped on something and went into the air and landed straight on his back. I swear it was like something in a movie. No one was really hurt, but God, that series of events was timed perfectly. There was a girl I was friends with who had developed early and had pretty big boobs and considered thick for a 5th grader. Hanged with a group of 5 or 6 girls. Most of the girls in this group were short, skinny, and the pretty ones of the class, so she stuck out from that group. During recess these 5 girls ganged up on her and pulled down, sometimes ripping her shirt, exposing her chest, and laugh cause they thought it was funny. She'd fight it and tell them to stop, but they'd do it even more, sometimes pinning her arms to the side so they could. She ended up hanging out with me more and finding different friends in middle school. There was one kid in my high school that everyone bullied relentlessly. He was pretty overweight and nerdy, but a good, kind-hearted person in general. One really popular girl, possibly hottest and meanest in the whole school, decided to humiliate him, so she seduced him and told him to wait for her in the bathroom stall. When she met him over there, she lifted her shirt and told him to drop his pants. When he exposed himself, she pulled out her phone and snapped a picture, then sent it to everyone she could, telling everyone he was creeping on her, and flashed her. He got suspended and was gonna be prosecuted. Few days later he hit her with his car, leaving her paralyzed, and then killed himself. This story is completely made up, but thanks for all the karma. 2 guys in my class would always race to the door when the bell rang and try to get the other one late. One day one of them made it in class with a couple seconds to spare, so he whips around and slams the door closed. I sat in the front of the class at the time, and all I see is a pointer finger shoot out from the hinge side of the door and bounce onto one of those metal shelves. The kid began screaming outside the door, and my teacher, being the kind lady she was, ran to the door to see what had happened. But before she can get there, I guess she saw the finger and let out a whimper and collapsed to the ground. Mind you, this was a matter of seconds, and now everyone in my class was alert. But before anyone could react, the kid runs into the classroom and yells, "My finger." And sure enough, there was only a bloody nub where his pointer finger got cleanly cut off. All I remember after that was the other kid began to panic and get more hysterical than the guy who got his finger cut off. Shock is one hell of a drug, lol. By now, a bunch of other kids were up and yelling outside the hallways for help while I got some tissues for the kid to help the bleeding. In the end, the kid went to the ER and actually got the finger 90% fixed. He says he still can't feel some parts of that finger, but he was fine. The teacher ended up going to the nurse's office and ended up fine. I know she went home for the day, so overall the day was a 6/10. Got less homework. TLDR. Kid got his finger cut off and teacher passed out. Both ended up fine. Edit. Spelling. Mexican gang member stabbed another Mexican gang member in the neck with a pencil. In class. It was 8th grade. He lived. The troubled kid had a panic attack because of a teacher. I think he had some issues at home. He was quiet, talked to no one. He always fought when people bothered him. He was something. Well, anyways, there was this teacher. She was really strict and got aggravated easily. Let's call her MRS. Well, we used to call her that, but she had asked him a question and he refused to answer. His head down looking at his empty paper. The teacher exploded on him, telling him stuff like, "You will never be anything in life, and do your parents even love you?" He sat next to me and I saw that he clenched his fists and started to shake. He tried to say something, but it all came out to be gibberish because he broke down right there on his desk. No one really knew him, so we didn't know what to do. We all just sat there as the teacher kept on insulting him, not caring that he had started to shake. A nearby teacher heard all the commotion and came to check on us and saw it. She calmly talked to the still yelling MRS whale outside as we just awkwardly sat there watching this kid break down. We did nothing. I really wish I would have done something, but I was frozen in place. After MRS whale calmed down, the other teacher helped the kid out to the office. We never saw that kid and MRS whale after that. They said MRS whale had retired early, but I don't think so.